Are you totally different when it comes to sex and copulation? Have you judged yourself out of receiving pleasure? Have you judged yourself into receiving pleasure in certain ways and excluded other ways? Would you like to know more about what else is possible with bodies? Would you like to create confidence in the bedroom and beyond? How has your sex life or lack of it affected other areas of your life? Everyone has the potency to be a sexual superhero. Get ready to listen, sense, and play with the sexualness that is you. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, pleasure diva and body whisperer, Milica Jelenic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Pleasure Zone. You found it, so that makes you a pleasure seeker. I know, who knew? Did you know that? That's your new title, Pleasure Seeker. Pleasure Seeker Divine. And you are entering an entirely interesting show this evening with me called Reclaiming, Reconnecting, and Reconstituting Your Body. Like, what does that even mean? Well, we're going to find out. So for a lot of you who are listening right now into the show, you'll know that a lot of times on the Pleasure Zone, we're talking about all things pleasure, sex, bodies, and all of that related. And one of the things that I'm aware of is that if you are avoiding being in charge of your body, if you're avoiding being connected to your body, and if you're avoiding looking after your body, there are very few things that will provoke pleasure in your body. So that is what has actually inspired this particular episode, Reclaiming, Reconnecting, and Reconstituting Your Body, looking at pleasure from a completely different perspective, aside from all of the things that we know about senses, about touch, about the ways that we can bring, we can invite pleasure into our bodies through different things like our senses and bodies and our physiological reactions. But I think there's some emotional connecting that's also required. There's some awareness required, and there's some really fundamental things about looking after your body that are required. So that's what we're going to be looking at and after today. So we will be looking at different meanings, energetic energy that I got behind these words as well, and some tips and tools, of course, on the how-tos of reclaiming, reconnecting, and reconstituting your body. And quite frankly, I think this is going to be an interesting episode because this is going to be all on the fly from me to you, whatever it is that I will be channeling, I suppose, today. The only things that I have looked into are the etymologies of the words, which are interesting into themselves, but they're also not going to be the basis of this show. I just like to look at them as a curiosity to see what somebody else's interpretation of the words are, because truly, as a friend of mine says, who is actually a very, very fantastic editor, who has, been working with the English language for like 60 years professionally, and says, etymology is like whatever you make of it, because at some point somebody invented the word and made up the meaning. So who's to say that you can make up a word and make up a meaning as well, which is what we tend to do all the time. And I know I've done that a lot in my life. So we're going to be doing some of that on this show. And my fascination with bodies is something that I bring into my daily life. I do it every day with my clients. I've been working with individuals and groups, and in private and in group classes as well as party settings for probably, it's been over 22 years now. So I've been working with people specifically. I started working with them on the energetics of things, with my awareness, moving into bodies and energy, moving into movement in bodies, moving into all kinds of other aspects of physiology and how we operate. And not a definitive of how we operate, but more of a curiosity of how physical bodies function and what's going on with them, and how we move through this world and what we can do to have greater ease. So what I really enjoy doing on a daily basis is inviting people to have more pleasure in their life. And I do that through different means, like working with their bodies through something called the mitzvah technique, which is a type of somatic body work, for lack of a better category. And it involves gentle movement to release the body through the skeletal system out through gentle movements, which essentially allow your muscles to relax. It allows your nerves to feel regenerated and to also have a sense of relaxation and ease. And then sometimes too, the emotional aspects will start to release out of the body when we store them in different areas. So on that level, it's it's somatic, that it releases emotion. It's not intentionally somatic, but it is what is created through that work. So other things that I do are something called radionics, which uses instruments that use scalar waves to facilitate change in bodies and to do analysis and then to also create change. So that's another fun thing that I offer in my everyday office, along with I wouldn't say I'm not officially a coach, but I do a lot of counseling with people. I do a lot of exploration with people, and my training and background is that I have a BA with an emphasis in psychology, as well as a lot of training in a lot of different modalities. So that is my kind of background in a nutshell, but I've got a lot more to a background than that. I just don't want to spend the whole hour describing to you, because who really wants to hear that when we're going to be talking about body, sex, and pleasure, right? All right. Well, let's start with the very first segment of this, of reclaiming. Now, for a lot of you out there, you might be like, what does that even mean, to reclaim? Why would we reclaim our bodies? And there are a lot of books out there that talk about reclaiming. There's one that's actually from Mama Gina called Pussy, a Reclamation. It's all about reclaiming. And what does reclaiming mean? Well, according to, when I will give you the etymology of it, I'll give you the brief and the etymology of it. But to reclaim is that you are calling back or calling upon and seducing your body into taking it back to its original form. So when you reclaim something, say Pussy, a Reclamation, you are taking the pussy back to its original well, not just meaning, but function, right? So having your pussy be like the magic pot that it truly is, that's one way of reclaiming. One of the other explanations of reclaiming is to seduce. And now I really love that addition to reclaiming, is the seduction of your body. So if you are willing to seduce your own body into something like more pleasure, how fun is that? And there are some other meanings as well that are interesting, and I'm not even sure how they relate yet, so we'll be exploring that too. But one of them is to subdue or to revoke, which is also to reclaim, that you might reclaim something. Somebody gave you something and you're like, I'm taking it back. That's revoking it. Reclaiming something too is, by subduing it, is to get it to calm down. So that's another interesting take. Can also indicate that you are getting something back by effort. So with all of those interesting meanings of reclaim, for me, the act to reclaim, which is reclaiming, it's taking it into action, is really where we start to have, on an everyday basis, a recognition that we actually own our bodies, right? So reclaiming is taking into action that you own and that you're calling upon your body to be in its original form, to involve it, to claim it, to seduce it, and to revoke all the aspects where you've given it away to somebody else. So if you have in your life, in this life or other lifetimes, where you've, said, oh my God, I just want my body to be owned by so-and-so. And we say that unconsciously sometimes when we are asking for a lover that will be like the one and only. So we're actually gifting them our body as a gift, and that's something that becomes theirs to claim. Whether they choose to claim the gift or not is another thing. So if you're choosing to reclaim your body, you'll be walking into relationships where your body is yours, you own it no matter what, and you are choosing the enjoyment of it, and you're also choosing what you utilize it for, how you utilize it, what magic can come out of it and be invoked by it. So I think it's an interesting thing that we could reclaim our bodies. And my other question is, why is it necessary? Why would we be reclaiming it? Haven't we always just had our bodies? Haven't we always been our own selves? But it's, in this respect, it's more of a psychological thing where we've consciously or unconsciously given up our say, given up our choice, given up our own thoughts or ideas or beliefs regarding our own bodies. Sometimes we do this with doctors, sometimes we do it with specialists, sometimes we do it with so-called experts, where we will give away everything. We'll give away everything that we know about our bodies to somebody who we think knows better. Now, let's look at that. Is that a smart choice? Is that a wise choice? And so I invite you to reclaim your body. I invite you to reclaim your body from every doctor who's ever told you what's wrong with you. I invite you, or any expert of any type who has claimed your body as something that they could use experimentally, something that they could use to tell you what it is, to tell you how it should be, whether that's the church, whether it's experts, whether it's your parents, whether it's your brothers, whether it's a religion, all of these things that will have you deny your body, that will have you let go of your body or give up your own claim of your body. When you have claim on something like a land claim, that indicates that that land is for you to look after. So wouldn't it be fun if you could write a body claim for your body? So that would be a tool. And thank you, everybody that's listening, for your minds and your hearts and your contributions, because this show is truly like on a whim. And how fun would it be to write a reclamation of your body, writing a letter to say, I now own you, body. You and me, we're together on this. We're a relationship, and I am going to make choices for you. I will listen to you, and I will make choices based on what you inform me of. I will make choices based on the communication you give me. I am actually here with you, for you, and together we're a team. So I think it'd be kind of fun to have a little, what are they called? Like a certificate, that you have certified and placed claim, a physical, something physical that you can look at to go, I claim my body. I reclaim it. I might have owned it before, but not even then. Maybe in another lifetime, maybe not. It was a different body then. So reclaiming the body is a very cool consideration to me that we can play with, because we have, so many of us have given up, we've just given up any thought that we would have a say of our bodies, or that we have a right to a say. And I think that's really key, is that we've given up the thought that we have the right to having a say about our bodies. And I became pretty vocal about this over the weekend. I went to a community meeting that was a political party talking about rural economic development in our area. They were trying to explain to us the bonuses of what's going on in our area. And quite frankly, it enraged me so much. And I thought, interesting, universe, here you are gifting me this information right before I have my show about reclaiming your body. And one of the things that the rural economic development people were talking about, that they are willing to, and this is something that we in my area of Canada are supposed to be grateful for, that we will be the guinea pigs for implementing a program for internet service, for the 5G service, which for anybody who's read any etymological studies on it would know that this is actually Actually, they know that it kills living cells. And so for me, I feel like reclaiming my own body and my right to my own body and the right to what happens to my body and what goes in my body and what affects my body, between, what pollutants go in it. I'm not really thrilled about the pollutants that are around that I don't have control over, not really thrilled about the EMFs that are all around that I don't have control over. So in reclaiming my body, it's become almost a political stance in a way. Become pretty freaking vocal about it, and I did have a bit of a blow-up at a meeting that was a political meeting, and I was kind of stopped in my tracks about what I was saying, which was fine, whatever. I was invited to send as much proof as possible, which I will be bombarding my local MP with happily every day until he changes this, because I'm not interested in being basically a lab rat for his experiments. So reclaiming, what can you do to reclaim? On an energetic level, absolutely write that letter that you are reclaiming, that you are actually reclaiming your body. So make yourself that certificate. I am in charge of your body, and I will do everything and anything it takes for me to look after you in the way that you require it. Reclaim it. And then if you notice that some things start to agitate the poop out of you, guess what? That's because you've reclaimed it, and now you see the crap that's hitting the fan, and now you see how things are affecting you. Now you're going to see what's going on this planet that's not allowing you to claim your body, that's actually having you basically revoke all sense of your own rights and revoke all sense of your choice. So yeah, you might get a little livid, because when there's bullshit floating around in the air, it's nauseating, and sometimes your bullshit meter goes off and you just want to slam things. Good times. Reclaiming. Who's with me? All right. I went on a little rampage. You might hear more of those rampages during this show, because that's where I'm feeling right now. So we are going to head to our very first commercial break here on the Pleasure Zone on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution? Taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Hello, my sweet pleasure seekers. Welcome back to the Pleasure Zone. And tonight we are reclaiming, reconnecting, and reconstituting our sweet, sweet bodies. Isn't that freaking awesome? Because it's about time that we start reclaiming, reconnecting, and reconstituting our bodies. And the first one we were talking about was actually the reclaiming aspect, because I went on a little rampage on the reclaiming this weekend, and I wanted to share that with you guys. Why I want to share that with you is because sometimes you might feel like there's an energy rising and you feel like you might be angry, but it also might be that you're really aware of when there's redonkulousness and stupidity floating around the planet, way more than there is oxygen. You know, when the stupidity takes over the oxygen, I start to get really mad. And I'm like, I need to breathe. I can't breathe stupidity. It's freaking deadly. Anyway, so reclaiming, get out those letters. Get yourself a reclaim of your body. Get yourself a little certificate. I own my body. I reclaim it here and now. It's mine. It's mine to choose food for. It's mine to choose medicine for. It's mine to choose my rights for my healing for as well, which they're trying to take away from us in Canada as well. And that's a whole other thing I could talk about for an hour. But be aware, guys. Be aware of where your rights are being taken away from you and start reclaiming things whatever way you can, whether that's taking a political stand and taking action, or whether that's doing it for you first and then taking it out into the world, whether it's educating people so that they know, so that they can make a choice whether they'd like to choose something or not choose something. And I'm really big on looking at as many angles as I possibly can to any subject, just to see what the value of it is. And you know, I've had times where I've had a severe opinion on something, and I've been able to be swayed. Give me enough information that shows me something different that might be a greater possibility. I'm willing to be open to that, right? So if you're willing to be open, you can find information that will actually assist you, and it'll allow you to start to reclaim your body, right? We'll tap back into the Mama Gina's pussy a reclamation without knowing that we've given up basically our rights to bear children, our rights to not bear children, our rights to do whatever the heck we want with our genitalia, especially as women. And it's only now really starting to sort of change, but that's not even worldwide. We might be lucky in our first world countries, but there's still insanity going on in third world countries where women have no right and no claim to their genitals whatsoever, never mind the rest of their body. They're still chattel. They're still owned by somebody somewhere. And that stuff makes me mad. That's the stuff that, you know, sometimes gets me wanting to slay dragons. And when I look into the world where we are not contributing to people having choice, just have choice. Whether you choose it or not after that is a whole other thing. If you're in a country where, you know, women are not given the choice, they're not allowed to lay claim to their body. They're not even allowed to choose who they marry. They're not even allowed to choose to have sex or not have sex. They're not allowed to choose whether, if they are having sex, whether they can use anything that would be, you know, for family planning, shall we call it. They can't even choose whether they're going to use the pill or condoms or anything like that. They have no rights whatsoever. And if you choose not to use it, that's one thing in a country where you have the option. But if you have no option, that's not cool. So part of reclaiming your body is it's also about seeing all the other places in the world where there is no choice and where there is no stand and where women don't have rights. And there was another fabulous documentary out there called Period, End of Sentence, where women basically were losing their rights to school. Young women were losing their rights to school because they didn't have access to sanitary products. And that is another reclaiming. They reclaimed their bodies. They started making sanitary products, and they started going back to school. And that is a step in reclamation. So find out what it is that's actually stopping you from having everything you desire and start to make a change on that front. And for those women, they couldn't go to school because they had their periods. It created great distress. And what did their community do? They started making sanitary products, and now the women can go back to school if they choose. Now they have a choice. They didn't have a choice before. Oh, good times. And you know, there are men too in the world who don't get to claim their bodies either. There are a lot of homosexual men in the world who do not have the right to have their lovers. They do not get to lay claim to who they enjoy their body with because they will be killed for it. And so if we were on a planet, in a place where we were allowed to have choice, we wouldn't even need to reclaim, because we would already be claiming it, and we would be making choices based on possibilities rather than limitations. And right now there are so many places in the world where there are things that are limiting, whether it's governments or religion or communities that are creating limitations for people that are not opening them to possibilities. So as much as I love talking about possibilities, I'm actually very real about where there are places in the world that have such heavy-duty limitations that are just saturated into everything. It would take a massive amount of change, and it doesn't mean effort. It would just take a massive amount of change to have that eliminated, so that the people can have possibilities rather than limitations. So we often talk about change having to be a lot of effort, and that's something that I think is a lie. Actually, it is. There is so much truth in that. If we all just chose something different, that it would change. And it is basically like having a congregation of people just choosing something different. If you're in a room with everybody agreeing that a spot on the wall is green, but that spot on the wall to somebody else is pink, and it takes them to show 20 other pink things to compare that spot so people can go, oh, that is actually pink. That one person showing something different, that there's maybe a comparison, like this is pink and this is very close to this. These could be pink. Then people can see that there's a different choice other than the green that they'd all been agreeing on. So when you present people with options and you present people with information, it gives them more opportunity to choose something different. And that's part of reclaiming in a big, big way. And as was mentioned in the chat room, this could be a class. I realized that this is pretty interesting. Maybe it will be a class. We shall see. Because there does seem to be a lot of information that just wants to come out of here. So I want to actually talk about the reconnecting as well as the reconstituting in this episode as well, and I'm already almost at the halfway point. So we will be talking about the reconnecting and the reconstituting after. I've had some visions on the reconstituting. To me, the reconstituting was very much like the energy of when you get dried fruit and then you add water to it, and then it's not exactly the same as it was, but it's pretty close to its original form. So reconstituting to me is like adding an energy that will have it basically come back to its original form. And a lot of these, like reconnecting and reclaiming and reconstituting, in a lot of ways are very similar, about going back to something that was an original way of being, going back to the potency of the truth, going back to what is real for you, what is true for you. Because the truth is vague, but what's true for you is something that you can find out in this lifetime for sure. So, yeah, so very interesting conversation. So reconstituting itself, basically constituting, and anything that's has to do with taking back to the original, but constituting is to enter into the formation of a necessary part. It has to do with a cause to stand, to fix, to establish, or to set in order, or to resolve something too. So when we're reconstituting, we're resolving something, and we may be fixing it. And that could be an interesting little part of our next conversation to delve into. When we're reconstituting something, do we have the perception that there's something broken? So that's not the energy that I'm coming from on this. I'm looking at it more from when we're reconstituting. Is there something is there an energy that's lacking that we can add to it to allow it to be greater than it is? So adding something, will it be greater than the sum of its parts? Now, that's a fun conversation to me. So we'll be talking about that actually after our next commercial break. So we are going to head off to our commercial break. You are listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution, taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Welcome back to the Pleasure Zone, sweet pleasure seekers. Sweet, sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. I hope you've enjoyed the first half of this program where I went on a massive rant about reclaiming your body. I really, truly think I could go on for hours about that. It's something apparently that's quite near and dear to my heart, and who knew until I started talking about it that it was something that I find very important. So, that's interesting. I guess I didn't realize how important it was to me till tonight. And so we're also going to be talking about reconstituting, which I mentioned just prior to going to commercial break. Reconstituting being the idea that anything with the word re in it is to take back to the original, and then to enter into the formation of, or to fix, or to place, or set in order. So let's go with the fix and place or set in order idea. So with reconstituting, and we want to set things in order and taking back to a place where there is order. When it comes to bodies, the sense of order comes from when your body has all the physiological parts working in a way that, for lack of a better word, is in balance. And I don't actually like the word balance at all, as it implies that when there's a giant pile of good, you have to add a giant pile of shit, and that would make it balanced, right? If you look at those balancing scales, in order to have balance, you'd have to have a giant pile of good plus a giant pile of shit to weigh each other out. And so instead of balance, I'm looking at optimal health. Let's call it that instead. Taking your body back to where it has the optimal, say, for example, optimal cell health, optimal organ health, optimal tissue health, optimal growth, optimal all of it. Everything's optimal. And optimal would be what is ideal for your body, which is different than any other body. So what is optimal for you and your body? And when we're reconstituting your body, what energy could you add to your body that would allow it to have a sense of functioning optimally? Isn't that a fun thought? So in order to have your body feel like it's functioning optimally, are you a kind of person who requires more sleep, more water, less water, more movement, less movement? So play with a few of those things, because bodies do love water, they love salt, they love sugar. A lot of bodies will enjoy food, but not necessarily like require as much of it as we think we do. And bodies do love movement. A lot of them do. And different kinds of movement. Some bodies love to run and love to bike. I have an uncle who's like, 67, and he bikes 70 kilometers a day. Maybe he's 68. And he's like full on, athlete. I think he's going for the Senior Olympics, whatever they're called. And as far as I know, I think he was training for that. And so he loves movement. That's like biking. He used to love running. But me, for example, I like biking, but 70 kilometers is not fun for me. That's like, what I love is dancing. I love swimming and dancing. I love cuddling, and I love humping. Those are some of my most fun movements. And there's maybe other movements that I'm not aware of yet. Like, I actually really love even like the movements of bell dancing, and I love the movements of hula hooping, even though I'm not very good at it, but it's just fun to move like a crazy hula hooper. And there are other movements that I think that my body would like to have that I have like a fear block to them. So part of reconstituting your body and reclaiming it too would be to invite yourself into those things that you have an awareness that you would like to do, but you might also have a fear factor involved. So it's to move out of the fear and into the choice and into the what would create greater joy and ease for your body. So reconstituting, what can we add to your body? What energy can you add? What is it exactly? And is it something where you see your body as a problem, so you think you have to fix it? You have to go back to the original. I have a lot of people who come into my office that when they do, I had a woman recently who said something that made me go, oh, that's interesting. So oftentimes when people have had a diagnosis of a terminal illness like cancer, they have something where they'll say, when this is all over, I hope I go back to the way I was. And then I say to them, the way you was what got you the cancer to begin with. So how about something greater than the way you was? And they're like, oh, right. So instead of going back to the way you were, or as we say up here in Eastern Ontario, Canada, the way you was, when you're looking at the way you was and you want to get back to the way you was, it's not really what you're asking for. You're asking to get back to something even better than what you had, and to have life and choices beyond what you knew were possible, so that your life and your body can be far greater and healthier than it was before any of that occurred. So if your body's feeling sluggish, weird, tired, ill, tension, stress, all of these things, instead of wanting to get it back, I just want to get back to the way I was when I was 22. No, that's not it exactly, because what you was when you was 22 brought you to exactly where you are now. So what else is possible, and how does it get any better? And body, what do you require? Because that old process and stepping back into the past is just going to create the same pile of poo that you got now. So if you don't like where you're at, don't try and go back to what you had in the past, or the so-called original form. So let's look at this as, what can we see? Where can we perceive an energy in our life where we had joy? But then let's expand it to beyond where that time frame was in the past, because we often conceive of time as linear, even though we know it's not. We know innately that it's not. But in order to place things in our mind, in order to place things and to remember things, we often put them in an order, like a timeline order of years. If we looked at it as a giant sphere of energy of all our lifetimes jumbled as one, we might get a little tipsy and confused. So we like order and structure. So, reconstituting your body by bringing things back into order might be about going into a little bit of a timeline. Like, when did this, when did these things start for me? When did I lose my sex drive? When did I lose my desire? When did my body start having diarrhea all the time? Like, when did all this stuff occur? And then because we're so linear in so many ways, and we do like order and control, we sometimes like to look to the past to see what it was. And I'm not saying to stop that altogether, because it is human nature to look at those things. When you do look at them, go, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what I could create beyond that. Oh, look at me. Look where I just stepped into that pile of poo. Oh, now my shoe's all dirty. Oh, I wonder what I could do now that's different. And you can choose different. And sometimes it's becoming aware of those timelines of when things occurred. And what occurred, so that you can switch it up and change it. There's a phenomenal body of work called the German New Medicine, and they do look at a lot of conflicts, and we often refer to conflicts as traumas. And they look at conflicts in different timelines of bodies in the past, according to different events, and they can actually establish when different diseases have started to manifest in the body and actualize in the body, and they can also establish what the emotional cause or the conflict, whether it's emotional or not emotional, what the conflict was, so you can resolve the conflict, and upon resolving the conflict, you can also resolve whatever is creating lack of ease or the dis-ease in your body. So it's fascinating stuff, and that does involve looking into past to create order, and that's one way of reconstituting your body is knowing for you what you created it for, and then you can move out of it and you can change it. So one of the tools for that is that you can journal on stuff like that, which is really helpful. You can ask yourself deep and delving questions. And if you don't know how to ask those deep and delving questions, that's what I'm here for. That's one of the things I love to do. I love to pinpoint when people are talking about their health, certain patterns that they come up with. And today it was very fascinating. I was working with a woman with cancer, and every time she talks about cancer, she talks about the loss of her cows, which is fascinating to me. And I'm really curious about what her conflict is. I'm still unraveling that with her, as I haven't fully taken the course in the German New Medicine, but I do understand the concepts of it, and I'm very curious to see what's going to change with her once she can reveal to herself, and once I can facilitate that for her, so that she can reconstitute her body so that it can be healthier, happier, have more ease, if she chooses it. She also might be choosing to step out of this life because she might be tired, so it's hard to say. I get different conversations every time we talk, which is fun. So that is something that I think is really key, is to know what did I create this for? Like, what is the bonus of having this? What is the value of this? And it's never, there is no value. I hate it. No. If you hated it, you would have changed it. You love it. What is it? It's that simple. And I ask myself those questions when stuff comes up, because it's like, wow, what am I creating? What do I love about this? What is it doing for me? And sometimes I know what I'm creating it for, and it's deep, dark, and mysterious, and it's almost like, seriously, Milica, like, what are you doing? So you can change that. We can change this body. So yes, I can definitely change it. And then it's just asking some pertinent questions like, what's required to change it? So reconstitution, what is required to change this? It's a really fun thing to explore, because it can be so many different things. And, especially when we think we have to fix something, what can I do to change this is a great question to ask. What is this? What can I do to change it? There's a great book by, I can't remember the name of the book exactly, but the author is Byron Katie. And in her work, she asks four main questions, and one of them is this real? And I think her four questions are phenomenal questions to ask yourself regarding anything to do with health, when you think especially that you need to fix something. Is this real? Is where to start. But by all means, pick up Byron Katie's books. Loving What Is actually the name of the the book that I'm thinking of in particular. And she's phenomenal. She's got herself out of a lot of disease that was more like depression. So I'm a huge fan of hers, so check her out. Anyway, we're going to actually head off to our third commercial break, and we'll talk about reconnecting at the very end, which I think is a fun place to put it. So for everybody listening, you're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution, taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pleasure Zone. And since you're here, you're a pleasure seeker, which makes you extra specially cool. Yeah, that's you. You're especially cool. So, very last part of our conversation tonight, which is a conversation about reconnection, reclaiming, and reconstituting your body. And reconnecting is going to be our very last part of our segment tonight, reconnecting our body. What does that mean to you? So when I look at the reconnecting of body, I look at, for me, it's like all parts of my body where I don't feel connected. What are the parts that I don't even notice? What are the parts that I'm oblivious to, can't feel, can't sense, not aware of? If somebody stuck a hot rod there, would I even notice? Maybe not. I mean, my body might have a response, but I'd be like, oh yeah, whatever. There was a hot rod there. So reconnecting is noticing all the parts where you've gone numb, where you've disconnected, and it might be the whole of you. I spent a lot of my life wandering around sort of half in, half out of my body, which was an interesting take. And I say that because that is the evaluation that was given to me by several people who were my healers at the time. And they were like, you need to get in your body. And then I came across a body of work, Access Consciousness, which actually talked about expanding outside of your body. And I found that to be a greater gift in me feeling connected to and with my body, was that I would actually expand beyond it rather than being told that I was half in, half out, and you need to do this, and I felt like I was a total fuck up until I realized that what I was doing was expanding beyond my body, and they, little sneaky bastards, were trying to get me to contract, which was cute. So there was a lot of value placed on contraction, and there's a lot of value placed on being smaller than you actually are. that is not you. That is not you connecting with you. You connecting with you is connecting with all the massive, the infinite being you are, with your body, with all of your consciousness, with your energy, with the space that you are, with all of it. It's amazing. And when you're so super hyper vigilantly aware of the spaces and places in your body that you are not connected to, even if it's for a millisecond, then you have the option and the choice to choose to reconnect with it. And becoming aware of that in that instant where you're like, oh, I wasn't noticing my anal sphincter. Interesting. Now I am. Fantastic. It's as soon as you notice that you weren't noticing it, that you are now noticing it, you've become aware of it, and now you're noticing it, then you've reconnected. Isn't that fabulous? So one of the easiest ways I find to reconnect with my body is to notice it and be like, hi toes, hi foot, hi ankle, hi leg, hi. And you can actually go through all the body parts if you know anatomy, name your muscles, name your, your different arteries, name your whatever. If you're really into anatomy, that can be a blast. I know it sounds like a blast for nerds. It is. It's a blast for nerds. If you're a nerd like me and you like to name your body parts and you're like, oh my gosh, hi adrenal glands, you're so sexy, how's it going, thymus? You can just talk to all of your body parts that you might have been ignoring. Just acknowledge them. And in acknowledging them, they now exist. You are now starting to reconnect with them. Then one of the more fun things you can do, and we did this in a couple episodes before, was breathing into, and we started with breathing into our genitals, right? So that was one thing. But you can breathe into any part of your body that you're ignoring. So if you have pain somewhere, acknowledge that part of your body first. Usually that part of the body is screaming because it's like, you're not paying attention to me. And instead of when we go and we notice it and we're like, fuck, my neck hurts, or fuck, my back hurts, we add this energy of kill energy to it. So now we've added this killer energy to the pain that already exists, which adds, it kind of amplifies the pain. Instead you could be like, wow, fascinating. Hi neck, what's going on? How's it going? Is there something you require? And then following up with that. And sometimes it's following up with it with going to the chiropractor because your body would like to have body work. Sometimes it's following up and calling me up for some body work because there's a lot of bodies who are like, my body was asking for your hands. And I love when people tell me that because I think that's just so freaking awesome. And so if your body is asking for my hands, even if you've never met me, remember to give me a call. You can find me. I do have a website. And I'm all over the place. It's just a matter of inviting me there. If it's not in the area of Ontario, but if it's in the area of Ontario, you'll find me meandering around and other parts of the world too. So, reconnecting. Hi, body. How's it going? Oh, look at you, fingernails. Fabulous. How are you doing? Have some conversations. It's like reconnecting with an old friend. What do? You contact them. You make contact. You make a little call. You say hi. You have a conversation. You make a plan to see each other. You make a plan and you invite each other and you reminisce about the good old times. Oh, feet. Remember that time we went for the walk and we went through these woods and we got lost. And then remember, third eye, how you got a dog that just ran after you and brought you to where you were supposed to go because you had the wherewithal to follow the dog out of the forest. Oh, my sweet feet and my sweet, sweet third eye. You guys are brilliant. Thank you so much. That actually did occur for me in my life. I went for a walk with some people once and we all got lost and I was like, let's just follow the dog. He knows where he's going. They thought I was a lunatic. I followed the dog. The dog got me back. They were confused. It was a great time. So I hope you guys had fun with this episode, even though I went a little political on your asses. Reconnecting, reclaiming, reconstituting your body. If you have questions, if you would like information, if you would like facilitation, please contact me, MilicaJelenic.com. In the meantime, I don't know what next week's subject's going to be, but it's going to rock your world as always. So stay tuned in and turned on until we meet again next week. Have a great week.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone. Milica Jelenic will return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.